Hello, here we are. Michael Bond, Paddington, Paddington and the Busy Day. One morning, Paddington looked out of his bedroom window and saw that it was raining outside. He was very disappointed. He had planned to spend the day in the garden, and now he had nothing to do. How about doing some painting, suggested Judy. You can borrow my box of paints if you like. There's a bowl of fruit in the other room, said Mrs. Brown. Why don't you try painting that? That should keep him quiet for a while, said Mr. Brown, as Paddington left the room. But Paddington was back in no time at all. He held up the bowl of fruit for everyone to see. I painted it blue so it'll match the wallpaper, he said. I have a feeling it is going to be one of those days, groaned Mrs. Bird. Has anybody else got any good ideas? There he is, painting the fruit bowl blue. You could help Mrs. Bird in the kitchen, said Mrs. Brown. How about tidying up the loft, said Mrs. Brown hastily. Your stamps need putting into an album, said Jonathan. If you have any paste left over, said Judy, you could stick lots of things together and make a collage like the one on the wall. Paddington thought for a moment. I think I'll start in the kitchen, he said. I may make some pastry. Bears like pastry. I think it's time I went to the office, said Mr. Brown. He was making his escape. Paddington was soon hard at work making pastry. He used over half a bag of flour, and he ended up with most of it over himself. You better go upstairs and have a wash, said Mrs. Bird, or you'll end up looking like a polar bear. I do hope it stops raining soon, said Mrs. Brown. It's all the flour in the kitchen. All over Paddington. On his way upstairs, Paddington remembered his stamps. His Aunt Lucy, who lived in the Home for Retired Bears in Lima, was always sending him postcards. He collected them all into a big pile and took them along to the bathroom so he could get the stamps off with water at the same time as he washed. But as soon as the water started mixing with the flour, it turned into paste, and in no time at all he found that he had more stamps stuck to his duffel coat than in his album. There he is. Always good ideas, Paddington has. Paddington decided it might be a good time to try his paw at tidying the loft. At least no one would be able to see him up there. He made himself some marmalade sandwiches and found his torch. Then he climbed up the special folding ladder Mr. Brown used for going into the roof. Paddington had never been in the loft before, and it was much darker than he expected. There he is, a little scared of the dark. He hadn't gone very far when he stepped on a loose board by mistake. The other end came up and hit him on the back of the head. The torch went one way, the marmalade sandwiches went another way, and Paddington went straight through the bedroom ceiling. Back in his room, Paddington gazed up at the hole. Oh dear, he said to the world in general. I think I'm in trouble again. He looked at himself sadly in the mirror, wondering what to do next. And as he did so, he had an idea. He fetched his pastry and the rest of the flour from the kitchen. Then he collected Judy's painting set and the rest of the stamps. After that, he found a bucket and a large spoon and some old newspapers, and he set to work. Wonder what he's going to do. The Browns could hardly believe their eyes when they saw what Paddington had been up to. I've never seen a collage on the ceiling before, said Judy. I wish I'd thought of it, said Jonathan. Looks good enough to eat, said Mrs. Brown. Whatever gave you the idea? It came to me, said Paddington vaguely. It's what's known as a ceilingage. I shall keep it up there to remind me of all the things you can do on a rainy day. I think, said Mrs. Bird, rain or no rain, it's high time you had a bath. And even Paddington had to agree that that was the best idea he'd heard so far that day. The trouble with having nothing to do, he said, is that you do get very sticky. especially if you happen to be a bear. There we are. That's the end of the book. And there's Paddington having a good old bath. Paddington and the busy day.